Welcome to the Pushing Buttons Podcast, the podcast where we talk about ideas, concepts, opinions, and experiences in video games. My name is Kevin.
This is Kyle.
And I'm Robert.
And today we're going to be talking about our favorite underrated games.
Ooh.
Do you sound so excited for this?
That was my excited voice.
Ooh. Just a fair warning, some of this might be a little bit of stuff that we've already covered on our Guilty Pleasures episode, but if you happen to have missed that, you can go back on CastBox, YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. Go back, listen to that. Come back here, listen to this one. Yeah. Before we get to that, though, how was your guys' weeks?
Mine wasn't bad.
Convincing, once again.
Thanks. Well, work is work. Yeah. You know, everyone knows how that is.
Indeed.
Didn't do a whole lot. I know last week I said I started Castle Rock, a new TV show on Hulu. Mm-hmm. I didn't get to watch this week's episode, so I'll probably do that this weekend. Played some more of The Witcher. That's about it. Oh, I watched the new Mission Impossible earlier this week.
I've heard great things.
It was a really, really good movie. The action in it is superb. Tom Cruise is freaking immortal. He's a legend. I don't know how he still does it at
Scientology.
Pushing 60. Oh. But, yeah, it is a really good movie. Probably either my favorite or at least second favorite of the series so far.
Nice.
Yeah, it's great to hear.
Your first favorite would be Mission Impossible 2, right?
No, yeah. That's everyone's favorite, I thought.
That is not an underrated movie. That is just a terrible movie.
I like that movie.
Having rewatched that recently, it's just not good.
Only reason I like that movie is because of Metallica's song for it.
Oh,
that's true. They did.
I Disappear.
That's I Disappear. Yeah,
I love that song.
I hate that song.
I love that song. It's great.
They didn't even have a regular bassist when they did that song. They had to use their freaking producer, whoever it was, to actually fill in for the bassist during that.
Wow.
I don't know why I love that song so much. It's just really badass to me.
I just hate that. Wow.
That's what I love about it.
Wow. It's so repetitive.
Everyone's entitled to their opinion.
I don't know. I just love listening to it.
It's the most Metallica song that exists.
Maybe that's why I like it so much.
We're still going to go see Metallica in December, so.
Indeed.
I still love them.
Maybe they'll play that song.
We can always hope.
Encore.
Shout it at the stage.
Anyway, video games.
But yeah, so that was my week, basically.
Nice. What about you, Kyle?
Not a whole lot. Basically, I'm just achievement hunting in Warcraft.
I was going to ask you, it has to have something to do with some Warcraft game.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm still getting ready for that to come out in a couple weeks. And, you know, there's not a lot to do other than old content that you kind of just want to grind gear for like, you know, completionist's sake. To create a transmog for your character, which is like, you know, how your character looks.
I do know that
basically. And, yeah, other than that, I've just been collecting mounts, just things that I forgot to do when I was playing through the game.
That should be a hobby that people have in real life. Collecting mounts. Not just horses, but all sorts of animals that they could ride.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could say that about my car. Like, that's my mount.
Look at my car. My car is amazing.
There we go.
I didn't really do much else other than that. It's been a pretty rough week for work-wise. And
work has sucked this week.
Yeah, it wasn't the best.
It's also been really warm this week and last week. Mm-hmm. It's been we're going through a heat wave right now. And as Pacific Northwestians, we're not used to this kind of heat wave. Kind of sucks. Yeah. I haven't done a whole lot either myself.
What?
I know. My fiance, it's funny that you mentioned Castle Rock, because I came home from work, I don't remember what day it was sometime earlier this week, and she had just gotten done with her 5-week stint of doing class full-time and working full-time, so she finally had a couple days off. I get home on her last day off from work, and she looks at me and says, I have nothing left to watch. I'm like, did you already? It was the day that they uploaded that episode of Castle Rock.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, did you already watch? Yes. She finished. She caught. I was catched. She caught up on *Handmaid's Tale*, which is another show that she's watching.
I've heard good things about that one.
So have I.
I haven't watched it myself.
Oh, okay.
but I don't watch a whole lot. I did get her into Sons of Anarchy, which I'm really stoked about because Mayans MC is starting pretty soon.
Excellent.
I want to watch that, but I don't think she's going to be caught up with Sons before that happens. It's
Yeah.
a great show, though.
There's
for the most part.
like 7 seasons, something like that.
Did they really go that long?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I haven't
7.
watched it. So.
Yeah, it was a slog.
Crap, yeah. Not all of it was great, but at least the first 4 seasons were fantastic. I remember loving those.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about TV shows, like for anybody who watches Big Brother, that's been really exciting lately. A lot of awesome blindsides happening lately.
Go on.
Well, basically, there's 2 sides of the house.
The left
There's-
and right?
Well, no,
Top and bottom.
not quite.
Okay.
Basically, like all the popular people and then the non-popular people.
High school.
So I was just gonna say.
Basically, yeah,
Gotcha.
that's how it goes.
It's a
But there's been a lot
microcosm.
of back and forth, like the power shifts between each side every week.
Huh.
Makes for a really entertaining season of the show, one of the best in years.
Was it like Celebrity Big Brother or something, or are they just regular
Actually,
people?
no. They did Celebrity Big Brother earlier in the year, which
Oh,
was
okay.
okay. I mean, it was pretty expected result. But this current season, it's all fresh people, which they don't really do too often.
Gotcha.
They always bring back a returning player, and it ruins the season because they always make it to the end
Oh.
because they know how the game works and stuff.
Yeah.
We got to create that drama.
Yeah, and right now it's just a really great cast, like people from all different backgrounds, and it makes for a really interesting dynamic for the power plays in the house, like from week to week.
You know, as a fan of Game of Thrones, would I like that show, Big Brother?
No,
Oh. It's just the way you
it's
talk
not
about
as
it.
entertaining to watch for
There's
someone.
no beheadings, no...
No,
Okay. No White Walkers.
I mean there's metaphorical beheadings,
Okay.
like the blind side I mentioned earlier that happened. It was pretty awesome because the person who got evicted was not aware that was happening to her, and she just got her head lobbed off right off the stage,
Gotcha.
to put it in a metaphorical sense.
Word. Word.
I mean, I've been watching Big Brother since season 2, so I'm a
Okay.
huge fan of the show and Survivor as well.
Isn't
You
that
actually-
like 20 seasons long or
Yeah,
something?
they
Jeez.
have one every year in the summer.
Jeez.
So you've been watching a long time.
Yeah, since I was like 12.
I didn't even
Wow.
realize that show was on for that long.
Yeah, I mean, they had casting calls up in Washington, and I was tempted to go, but I didn't because of work.
Gotcha.
Because I
Never let work stop.
it was
you.
during a weekday. But yeah.
Got to chase those dreams, Kyle.
We record this podcast on
I
a
actually,
weekday
I actually,
at work.
you know this already, Kevin. I think you do too. I tried out for Survivor,
Mhm.
Yeah.
I've heard
and I haven't heard anything back yet. But
They've
hey,
still got your audition on file.
yeah, Jeff, if you're listening, I'm ready.
He's listening.
I just picture was it The Office or Parks and Rec? I want to say it was Andy Dwyer from Parks and Rec. Did he do like a submission video for that show, or was it Michael from The Office?
Michael from The Office, I think.
I don't recall this.
God,
at all.
I feel like I've seen it on one of those shows, but they're like
You
recording.
do this a lot where you
I
something
know.
reminds you of a sitcom and you can't remember what
I know,
sitcom
it
it's
sucks.
from. Yeah.
But yeah, and I just picture you being like trying to act like you know what you're. Not that you don't know what you're doing, but you know, trying to like
Well,
debone a fish on the camera or whatever.
It's kind of interesting because you get a number
Mhm.
and you wait in line till your number's called.
Like the DMV.
Yeah, basically, and you get a minute in front of this camera that some random guy is just kind of like hurry up already, and
Oh,
he
geez.
can get you off the stage quick enough so
Right.
you can go on his lunch break. But I tried to be enthusiastic, but I guess that didn't do anything because I didn't get picked.
Hmm.
But there's times where people as recent as this current season in 2018, he made a submission video in 2012 and he won the game.
Oh.
So you
So
know,
give it another couple of years and you might get picked.
if I keep applying, maybe it'll be a
Gotcha.
thing. But it's been rough because every year I want to do it. It's the same day as my girlfriend's birthday.
Mm.
This
Gotcha.
year and last year I didn't get to do it, but in 2016 I did. And yeah, it'd be fun to try again. Chase that dream.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go for
You
it.
only got one life, man. YOLO.
indeed.
The other thing, I don't know if you guys remember last week I said that there was something I was forgetting. And then I thought it was the thing that I ended up talking about. Whatever that was. But it wasn't. What I was going to talk about was the Binding of Isaac: Four Souls, the card game Kickstarter. Yeah. So they had a goal of $50,000, and this is the first Kickstarter that I've put any money down on in years. They ended up with over $2.6 million.
Holy smokes!
Yeah, and I am very, very excited for that game and want you two guys to play that with me when I get my copy.
Oh, we will. We'll probably broadcast it, I imagine.
Maybe my fiance might be there with us too.
That'd be fun.
So yeah.
I'm willing to try. I've never played any like type of card game, Magic, anything like that.
It is very
so.
It's obviously themed around the video game, The Binding of Isaac, but it's kind of set like Magic in the way that it is. And the Kickstarter tier that I backed ends up we gonna have a 4-player game mat and all kinds of cards and stuff.
I can't remember the name of the format, but basically in Magic, there were decks that you can buy that you can play against, and they were like NPC bosses. And you can team up with another player to challenge that NPC deck.
Gotcha.
And that's kind of what Four Souls sounds like to me.
Four Souls it's a competitive co-op.
Yeah.
So you do cooperate to try to take on the NPCs and the bosses and the monsters and everything, but still there is one winner, whoever gets 4 souls first. But anyway,
I feel like everything's getting turned into a board game now. I just saw The Witcher.
Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah, that's the other one.
Oh yeah, I did see that this week.
I just saw that today.
Yeah, it's
that they're turning that into a board
apparently game. It's becoming a big industry again.
I think it's the third coming of board games, because like 2 years ago they had the second coming of, it's like the golden age of tabletop games.
I just read that I haven't played it, but it looks kind of cool. There's like a really popular tabletop game called Gloomhaven.
I have heard of that.
And that looks kind of cool. They're making it into a video game. That kind of looks like a roguelike.
Fun.
So it looked interesting from what little gameplay I saw of it.
Awesome. Well, I don't have anything else to talk about. Let's talk about some underrated games.
Okay.
Indeed.
Sounds like a good
topic.
topic.
Do you want to kick off, Kyle?
Oh, sure. I mean, we were kind of talking amongst ourselves, like what would
amongst?
be good.
You're welcome.
It's the alcohol.
Blame it on the alcohol. Baby.
And we thought it'd be kind of fun to kind of change directions this week. Instead of being negative, we can talk about some games that were perceived negatively, but were actually these hidden gems of games that, we each of us particularly look back on fondly. I mean, I just wrote this down. Just
Kick us off.
Yeah, I was going to say, when I think of underrated games, there's 2 big ones that are at the top of the list. There's Psychonauts, and then there's Beyond Good and Evil.
I don't know if Beyond Good and Evil is considered, since the announcement of Beyond Good and Evil 2, I don't know if the first one's considered underrated anymore.
Well, technically, there is a Psychonauts 2 being made.
Yeah.
But it's like in development hell, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's why I didn't mention that one.
Yeah. But I heard of both of these games basically by word of mouth, saying, wow, these are like hidden gems. You got to play them to really know what they're like.
They were both during the Xbox generation, right?
Right.
Xbox PS2.
Yeah. And, funnily enough, they were all on multi-platform consoles like PS2, GameCube, Xbox.
I have them both on PC.
And as well as Steam. And I played, I believe I played Beyond Good and Evil first, because it came out on Xbox Live Arcade on the 360.
Okay.
And I went in there knowing like it was a highly regarded cult classic. And I had no expectations going into it. Basically, I walked away from it like really impressed. Like, there's some parts I kind of agree with the critics. Like, the gameplay is kind of all over the place because it's such a mesh of different genres.
Okay.
But that's what makes it like
unique.
Well, I was going to say like an intriguing experience.
Okay.
Because you have all these different ways of doing encounters in the game. You can be stealthy, you can be action focused, or you can basically just kind of go through the game doing as little as possible. But me being the completionist, I went ahead and did everything.
Naturally.
But that's what made it fun for me, was there's a lot of like nooks and crannies for secrets that you can find. But it was more so the narrative that really strikes out. Like playing as Jade at the time, I just remember thinking to myself, like, if this game was experienced back in 2003, it was such a different experience. Because you had all these games with, like, male protagonists.
Mm-hmm.
And having Jade as a character, it was really fun to see her story. As well as her squad mates, or, like, I think his name is Pigsy. I can't remember for the life of me now. Yeah. But I was really enjoying that game. It just felt really cozy.
That's a good word to describe it. Yeah.
Like, I just felt really relaxed while playing it. Like, the music was awesome, and
Psychonauts I kind of see as the same. It was completely separate, completely different style of game, or different game. But I kind of see it as a similar kind of just relaxing.
It was.
Get into it and experience the story for what it is, even though the gameplay, it was a third-person, like, action-adventure, right?
It was like a platformer, like Mario.
Right.
But it was really focused on, like, the character interactions and the dialogue.
Yes.
It was a really funny game. Like, I really enjoyed playing as...
And who made that game? Was that Double Fine?
Well, yeah, Tim Schafer.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, I mean, overall, it was just a really fun romp. Like, it was like a collectathon, basically.
Okay.
But the environments and the game design was really good. It complemented the story really well. And the characters just have these great interactions with each other that, make you laugh and enjoy the story for what it is.
Yeah. Double Fine's good at that. Tim Schafer's writing is usually really funny. Mm-hmm. I do want to mention Broken Age. And I know that game did go through a development hell of its own. And they ended up splitting the game into 2 parts. And I played the first part after it came out because I was so stoked for it. I mean, Will Wheaton as one of the main voice actors in the game.
Nice.
And Tim Schafer being behind the helm of the game. It's an adventure game, like a point-and-click adventure. Mm. Kind of like the classic style point-and-click adventures. I still haven't played, since it came out, the second part of that game, the second half. I've been meaning to. But that game got crapped on so much because of the way that it came out and how long it took for the second half of it to come out, that Double Fine kind of went through a period of... It was between that and Starbase DF or whatever the building your Starbase game was that they released, and they basically said, hey, you guys can finish this game now and let mod support be available. And they kind of lost a lot of... there's a word. They lost the good perception that the customers had of them at the time.
They lost a lot of goodwill?
Yeah, they did. And that was an easy word for you to come up with, wasn't it?
Strange.
They lost a lot of that goodwill that they had with the consumer because of that. But I still think Broken Age, despite the way that it came out, was still a really fun game. It's the first point-and-click adventure that I've actually gotten hooked on. And it's what I consider an underrated game.
If we're talking about Double Fine, I have to bring up Brutal Legend.
I was just going to ask if either of you guys had ever played that.
I have not. Because of the RTS elements.
Exactly. And that's what divided a lot of people, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't like RTS games.
But I played
I didn't know there was any of that kind of stuff in that game.
Yeah.
Yes.
Apparently most of the game was like that, or a lot of it was like that.
The first half of the game, it's like an action platformer.
Yeah.
Where,
I remember
it's like
playing
a hack
like
and
an hour or two.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then halfway through the game, it like genre bends and basically becomes like an RTS.
Huh.
And
that's weird.
I know it put off a lot of people, but I actually found a lot of joy from it because it was really unique. More so in the fact that instead of having like a top-down perspective, you're still controlling the main character. I can't remember his name, unfortunately.
Jack Black.
Yeah, Jack Black. There you go. Yeah. But you get wings and you fly over the battlefield, and you command your troops and whatnot. While also driving your vehicle.
I just keep thinking of Assassin's Creed when they tried making you as Ezio defend the bases. And
no, it's nothing like that. I mean, I kind of see the comparison you're trying to make.
Yeah, because I never played Brutal Legend.
But what I loved about the game is the aesthetic of it, like the heavy metal, inspirational.
Yeah.
Like, it was a freaking badass game.
That was in the height of the Guitar Hero Rock Band craze,
that too. Yeah. I actually played it after all that.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was like 2010-ish
Okay, so it was after it started dying down a bit.
Yeah.
And after that genre started, the music genre.
Right. And more so than anything, I just loved listening to the music and interacting with, like characters like Ozzy who are in the game. But or like the main bands that are featured in the game. Like, that was just really fun to experience. Like, it was what I think is best about it is that it took a genre of music and just really went to town with how it could inspire a game.
How you would play a genre of music, basically.
I mean, it's kind of hard to put into words.
No,
but,
I got you. It's
Yeah.
kind of what I tried to do, but failed, apparently.
like, I think of games like God of War and Dante's Inferno, which is another underrated game of mine. And I think what Brutal Legend did so well was just taking such great source material from this genre of music and translating that into a video game setting.
Yeah.
Like, it was really fun to explore and drive around in the car.
I didn't even know there was a car in that game.
Yeah. And then, like I said, the RTS elements, it's like 50-50.
Gotcha.
But I liked it. It was fun.
Nice.
Well, the one I can think of, it kind of goes back. I think it was around the same time that came out. Totally different game, but John Woo's Stranglehold.
Damn it.
Oh, shit. This brings back some good
I'll take that
memories
off
for
my
me.
list. That was a freaking great game.
I'm sorry, Kevin.
No, it's
It
all
was.
good.
It really was, and I remember when it came out, I wasn't too familiar with, the name John Woo.
Yeah,
Like I think I'd seen Face Off, and that's an
Yeah,
entertaining
we haven't
movie,
seen the movies.
but,
Yeah.
Yeah, that was based off of Hard Boiled, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And after the game, I mean, the cross pollination between movies and games worked because after that I went and watched the movie,
Yeah.
which is a good movie too.
I've been
but
meaning to,
It-
but never have.
it's a really good movie, and it's just like the game.
Yeah.
Flying around.
Stupid, senseless action.
Yeah, it was so fun for what it was, and you felt like you could just play the whole level just flying around, not flying, but
Right, yeah, do the
diving
bullet time
around the
dive,
whole
yeah.
time, and it was
See, I always think of Kevin jumping on carts and just...
It's because that's when it would slow down. You had to be doing
Yeah.
some kind of parkour movement for it to be bullet time. So you'd always force yourself to go over a cart or through a stand of
and
some
all the
kind.
things like the physics of like blowing like pots of plants and jars and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that was an earlier Xbox 360
Mhm.
title.
Yeah, it was
so
like
Yeah.
really close to launch.
it was when the graphics seemed really, really
Yeah,
impressive.
you're like, oh my god, this looks so real.
Right.
Yeah, it was, looking back on it now, it's definitely got that kind of like the early high def game haze that those games seem to have, where everything's kind of like ultra saturated. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah, they used a lot of filters to kind
Yeah.
of hide the jaggies and whatnot.
The Jaggies.
the
Jag- the
I
Jag-
like
who makes
that.
jaggies.
I like that.
But yeah, that was a great game.
That game I classify as one of my GameFly specials. Because I
Yeah.
did GameFly that game.
Yeah, I think I had gameplay around that time.
It was great.
Does that still exist? Gamefly?
It does, because I get emails from them every once in a while.
I
Hey,
think they
come
rent
join
movies
us
now,
for-
too.
Really?
I thought they did, like early Netflix, like they do the DVD by mail or something. I could be
Interesting.
wrong.
I don't know.
We're not sponsored by GameFly, but we'd
No?
love to be. Wink. Speaking of games in that time area that that time frame that I did GameFly, Wet. I did do that one via GameFly too, and I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before that I played that game. I think it was during the Guilty Pleasures episode. I talked about it briefly, but it was fun in the same way that Stranglehold was fun. I actually put them together on my list because I want to talk about them at the same time because they're very similar games. They different settings, different styles, but the stupid, senseless action with the story that didn't matter was kind of where it was at, and it was a really fun game. It was just stupid, senseless action. I love that in a game.
I remember when it came out, and I think I was subscribed to official Xbox magazine back then, so
Gotcha.
I would always read everything through, even stuff I didn't care
subscribed to
about.
Game Informer, I think.
Nice, yeah. I think at one point I had those two plus like Game Pro. I think I had them all coming at the same time.
I was
but,
subscribed at one point to OXM as well, but the only other magazine subscription I ever had was Nintendo Power back in the
Yep.
day.
I was going to say, I was subscribed to Nintendo Power, Electronic Gaming Monthly.
that was it. Okay. So
I
had
was
4.
not really subscribed to, what's it called? Game Informer?
Yeah,
I didn't really. That was when I stopped
Gotcha.
doing magazines.
I did that because that's when I pre-ordered a lot of games through GameStop, which I
And
just
yeah,
felt like I was going to melt just saying that sentence.
And then, of course, official PlayStation Magazine for the demo discs.
Yeah,
I found a lot of underrated games through that particular service.
I kind of missed that. I think they have demos that you can get on your console nowadays, but it feels like back then there was more of it.
Yeah, like
And
they would
especially on
have
those
like at
discs
least.
and-
Oh man, it was incredible. Like they would have 5 to 10 games per month as demos.
I miss that because
And
then
they
you
had
could
trailers.
really get a sense for, do I want to get this or that? And
Yeah,
that's a different topic for a different time, though.
I'll just say like there's one game in particular I never would have bought, were it not for official PlayStation Magazine, and that's a Robot Alchemical Drive.
Alchemical?
Alchemical Drive.
I've never heard of this game.
It's acronym is RAD for PS2. It's like a
never heard of
Godzilla
it.
kind of fighting game where you control robots.
I might have to look this up.
It's badass. I mean
if the acronym is RAD, then
Yeah, it's got to be at least rad, if not badass.
I mean, there'll be a day where we stream it on our eventual Twitch channel.
Twitch.tv/pushing buttons.
Exactly. And I bought that when it first came out because of official PlayStation Magazine's demo for it.
Hey, Robert.
It was
Yes.
an awesome game.
If I were a casual listener to this show, how
Sure.
would I know when we go live on twitch.tv/pushing buttons? Well, Kevin, they would follow us on Twitter at Pushing Buttons P.
Oh, okay.
Or just log into twitch.tv.
I don't even know when we're going live.
Because we haven't yet.
Well, Kevin.
That experiment failed.
I failed you, Master.
It's okay.
I was so confused for a minute.
I can see that in your
I
eyes.
was like, oh no, I didn't study for this.
You failed the test.
But going back to Wet, though, so was it, because I never played it, but like before we got off on the magazine tangent, I remember reading about it, but I don't remember what kind of game it was. Was it like guns and stuff too, or was it
It was
more
guns and
melee?
sword. It was both.
Gotcha.
It was a combination of both. And if I may not be remembering completely correctly, but I think it had a bullet time element to it. But I think it was like limited, like a special ability that you had for
Gotcha.
bullet time. It was just stupid, but it was great. I love that's what I love in action movies. I don't like an action movie with a story, and I'm the same way with games. I don't like an action game with a story. I play it for the fun ridiculousness of it all.
The gameplay.
Yeah. And with movies, I'm the same way.
Well, then you have no excuse not to be watching the John Wick movies.
I know. I
mean, not saying the story is bad in those movies, because
I've had
it's
the
good,
same
but
movies too.
the
I've heard
action
good things
is
about
just
them.
fantastic.
Yeah.
My dad's been trying to get me to watch the John Wick movies since the first one came out. And I just haven't, I know. I'm slapping myself on
That
the
would be a damn good video game. John Woo should make John Wick.
John Woo's John Wick.
I think we need to contact him.
Let's do it. Well, he's
Mr. Woo, we have an idea if you're listening.
He's a listener to the show on the podcast. Just tell him right now. I had one game from the N64. It was the first underrated game that I can remember playing, and even knowing at the time it was underrated because I didn't hear much about it. And it was Quest 64.
Oh, I've heard good things about that, but I've never played it.
Yeah,
not heard of
I
that.
heard good things about it, but I haven't heard a lot about it. But I played the crap out of that. It went down. It was before Hollywood Video ever came to my hometown. And I rented this game multiple times because I think it was $3 for 2 days to rent a game.
Yeah.
So I rented it for probably 2 weeks at a time. My parents hated it, but I don't remember a whole lot about the game, but I remember playing the crap out of it. And I know that the attacks were all about the 4 different elements, and those 4 elements were tied to the C buttons, which is the stupidest way to lay out a controller ever. But another topic for another time. But the game, it was kind of like a 3D Zelda. Like it reminded me a lot of Ocarina of Time, but with a turn-based combat system. But the exploration was very Zelda-esque, I would say. And this is just going back from memory from 1996, 97, 98, whatever year that was. I don't have the greatest memory of all time. But I do remember loving that game, and I know other people do, but I think it's more of a cult classic than it's an actual classic.
Interesting title for a game.
Quest 64.
Yeah.
It was a very generic. I think it's
Well,
probably
I guess
why
if
it
it's
was
on
released-
the 64, that makes sense.
everything on
Never
the
mind.
64
So it's just
ended in
Quest.
64.
It,
Gotcha.
it was a gimmick back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Star Fox 64, Super Mario 64,
That
etc.
makes sense.
I've got a few that I can just list off real quick.
You did your research.
Basically, a lot of these underrated games I'm finding are from last generation.
I think it's where
PS3, Xbox 360, Nintendo Wii.
that's when game developers were still trying to take chances.
I mean, they had a
Game
lot of
publishers.
established franchises, but this is before a lot of these huge ones just are cemented as like the top earners.
Yeah.
GTA, Call of Duty, Battlefield, Fortnite.
Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those, I mean, I feel like are not given the recognition they're deserved. There was a particular game I really wanted to talk about in depth. Basically, this is an EA game. I know, shocker. Have you guys heard of the
That was a
Saboteur?
pin drop.
Yes.
Saboteur was such a criminally underrated game. It was fantastic. I loved playing that game. It was Pandemic Studios' swan song before EA mercilessly beheaded them,
Mm-hmm.
like full-on execution style. And it's a shame, because that game was so fun to play.
When you say full-on execution style, you're talking about Big Brother again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Game of Thrones style. Like, you don't earn us $5 million, boom!
What didn't you like about it? Or what did you like about it?
Oh, I loved it. Like, I love the fact that it was in black and white, and when you clear the zone, it becomes color.
Oh, that's
Like
I
that,
remember
that
that,
thematic choice of
Yeah.
doing that, it just felt really fun to complete it 100%. Because once you did, I mean, you had the main missions that would let it become colorful. But it was so fun to just go around and collect everything, seeing everything in color. And I love the fact that the main explosive was just a stick of dynamite and a timer. And you had to plant dynamite on everything to blow it up.
gotcha.
It just made it so fun to play. And there was so many different missions that you could do. Like, you would go on blimps to kill Nazis, or just, like, interact with revolutionaries in Paris. And the driving was really, like, it was arcadey. It wasn't, like, serious, like, physics-based, which made it more fun.
It was kind of like Mafia meets Wolfenstein.
A little bit, yeah.
Gotcha.
But I even enjoyed, like, the story of it, which is rare in an open world game.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Like, I'm really bad with names, so I can't remember the names of the characters anymore.
French guy.
But I just really love seeing the progression of his character throughout the main narrative of the game. And plus you get to climb the Alpha Tower in it, which is awesome. But I would say that's a hugely overlooked game. Like, that deserves way more praise than it gets.
I think that's probably a game that I played the demo for with OXM. So I remember when that came out, hearing a lot about it and about the unique art style they were doing with it, and I'm pretty sure I did play the demo of it. I think that was back in the day where I was really kind of only focused on, the main big games.
Yeah.
So
I feel like I hear that game, the Saboteur, spoken of in the same breath as Spec Ops: The Line. Which I don't see that as an underrated game. I see that as rated exactly what it should be, because it's been talked about to death by a million different people time and time again.
I mean, it got me to play it, all that talk about, wow, this is such a great story of a game.
Yeah.
I tried playing it, and the gameplay sucks.
Yeah.
Like, the
I
shooting
tried
sucks.
playing it as well. I couldn't do it. Even knowing that there was a good story twist at the end, I knew what the plot twist was, but I still wanted to experience it.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it because the
lost
shooting
interest.
mechanics were crap.
The gameplay is just so mind-numbingly
It felt like I was
boring.
playing a Red Faction game without the fun destruction.
yeah.
And that was the point of Red Faction Guerrilla.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah.
I mean, speaking of other games that have stylistic choices that aren't, really feasible for profit earnings,
That
for
is
a lot
the
of companies.
biggest stretch for a segue I have ever heard in my life.
bravo for the effort.
I tried, man. There's another game in black and white that was really fun to play. It's called Mad World.
Okay, yeah.
For the
that was on the
Nintendo
Wii, yeah.
Wii game, yeah. That game was so awesome.
Didn't they make a sequel?
Yes, they did. It's called Anarchy Reigns. It was an Xbox 360 like brawler, like multiplayer.
I thought they made an actual
based.
another Mad World game.
No, they never made another main entry. They made like a multiplayer only party game called Anarchy Reigns. I haven't played it, so I could be wrong in describing it. But Mad World was really cool. They had black and white, of course, and the only color that would show up, like the Saboteur, was red, because you have to kill your enemies as gorily as possible.
They had different black and white than the Saboteur. Saboteur was like just dark contrast. It was just like black with a little bit of white, like a black and white film. But Mad World is like, it looked like it was written on a piece of paper, like drawn on a piece of paper.
Yeah, it was very much so. As far as I'm aware, the only time you see the color is red when you're killing your enemies.
Yeah,
it was such a
just like in life,
like a crazy. It was a really
every time I go to sleep.
Yowza.
It was just a really fun game. I remember, like, that was the one time I actually enjoyed using motion controls in a Wii game.
What?
Yeah, exactly. Because a lot of your special moves that you use on the enemies involve motion controls.
I'm just now picturing you, and I wish we had a webcam for me to show you what I'm about to do. But I'm
waggle.
picturing you standing up and just like spinning in circles like I did with that sweet-ass Michael Jackson move earlier today.
You did, yeah. I mean, the only time a motion controller game has really made me get up out of my chair was Wii Fit. And that was not...
I was about to say, is this going to be safe for work, what you're about to say?
But I would say that's a must-play for people that just love a good time.
Like stupid action games.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I do.
Yeah. Not to take seriously, but just to have fun.
There's another really heavy gameplay game that...
There's lots of those.
A game that was fun specifically because of the gameplay that you and I have talked about on the podcast before, and that was PsyOps: The Mind Geek Conspiracy.
I was going to bring that up as well.
Yeah, I figured. That is an underrated game.
Absolutely.
I cannot believe they have not made a sequel because of how good that game was.
You know, I don't think it did very well. Like, that was Midway's last game before I think they were shut down. I think.
That might be true, I'm not sure, but...
Not 100%, but...
Yeah. That was a really fun game.
It was.
Just from being able to take over people's minds to the side surfing, being able to like blow up a door, walk on that door, move that door with your mind, and shoot people while you're doing that.
While you're moving the door.
Yeah.
Under your feet.
That door.
Levitating your character.
You try to do that in the game, even like Half-Life 2 has a gravity gun, you can move stuff around, but you can't move stuff around in that game while you're standing on it. PsyOps you could, and that was
it was awesome.
a main gameplay element in that game that no game that I have played has done since. That game is freaking fantastic, super underrated. Everybody needs to play it and tweet at anybody that makes games now to make a sequel.
I'll raise
Get the license.
I think we should get Robert to play it.
That would be fun. Do we have an original Xbox for him to play it on, though? Or is it backwards compatible? Oh.
Yeah.
Nice.
I got a PS2 with the PS2 copy.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm down diggity.
Down diggity. That's
like all these games
down.
I'm talking about, I own. Like, I actually traded in Saboteur because I 100%ed it, and I wish I hadn't. Because it's such a good game.
I mean, you could probably get it on Steam for like $12.
Yeah, I'm sure. But I love PsyOps. Man, that was such a fun game to play.
And I love that me, you, and one of our buddies from high school, Andrew, he also played it, and we were all playing it at the same time.
Yeah.
That was the time. That's how you know it's an underrated game, when it was three of you guys that were talking about it in class, and nobody else in the flipping world was talking about it. It seemed
Indeed,
like.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That was a really good game.
I mean, that brings me to my next one. I've talked about it before, but Alpha Protocol.
I'll take that off my list as well. We have spoken about that on the podcast. As
you
well.
and I think we played.
That's another one you guys suggested I play.
Yeah, I was going to say we suggested that Robert plays that.
We did cover it, but I just want to mention it again. Like, it's an underrated game for the wrong reasons, mostly because of its buggy mess. But
so it's a guilty pleasure game.
Yeah,
that's the episode that we talked about it on.
Yeah.
I know.
It is a really good game, though. It was what got me psyched for Obsidian. It was it was their own franchise. They were doing it themselves. It was a story that they made from scratch. It's not like with KOTOR 2 where they just took an existing IP and expanded on it, air quotes. It was a brand new thing for them. And yeah, it didn't work out as great as it could have, but
No.
the story was okay, but the different ways that you could go about playing the game and the dialogue was at least funny to me because it was supposed to be serious and really wasn't.
I mean, the amount of power you can have with just using pistols. You became a god. Like,
Yeah.
you would just one-shot enemies like nothing with a pistol. It was insane.
Yeah.
So, another one that I play back on, this goes back to the original Xbox, Lord of the Rings A Third Age. Either of you guys ever played that?
I did play that.
You did?
It was the one fun Lord of the Rings game that was not an RTS.
I have never met anyone else that has ever played it. And it is a turn-based combat game. Are we pausing?
We don't have to.
Okay. Well, it was a turn-based combat game, and
Maybe I'm
Up
not
to-
thinking of the same game.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm thinking of a different one.
what are you thinking of?
Maybe I'm thinking of one of the actual movie titles.
That could be. But up until that point, and to this day, it's actually the only turn-based combat game I've played because that's a lot of like Japanese RPGs are like that, right?
Yeah.
And when it came out, that was one of the things that critics were railing against it for it being just it's trying to be like Final Fantasy or whatever. But me being that was just my experience was just that game. It was really fun. And it wasn't open world, but you would progress through different areas, and it went through all of Middle Earth, and it basically followed the movies. Your group of characters was like following right behind the Fellowship the entire way.
I did play this game.
You
Okay, yeah. It was a good game. It wasn't the end all be all of a game, but it was a better Lord of the Rings game than we had available to us otherwise.
I mean, the movie ones weren't too bad.
Yeah.
I like those.
Yeah.
At least Two Towers and Return of the King.
Yeah.
The Fellowship of the Ring was horrible, but that wasn't connected with the movies.
Yeah.
But it was a game that just got like middling reviews. Nothing special, but it was really fun, at least for me, and it got the world of the movies down, and it's still one of my favorite games. I still own my copy, even though I don't have an Xbox or a way to play it.
Nice.
I can't get rid of it.
I think that was another rental for me. That was in my Hollywood Video Blockbuster days, though.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings games are kind of tricky. Like, the only one I've really played through
Shadow
and
of
through
Mordor.
is Shadow of Mordor.
Mortar?
Mortar.
Yeah, that's how they say it in the Led Zeppelin song. Morna.
I don't know why, but Lord of the Rings games just do not appeal to me.
Well, I mean, a lot of them were licensed because of the movies.
Right.
Until, like Shadow of War when they started branching out and creating their own things. But, like I was saying, it's turn-based, the Third Age was.
I see.
And so you might actually enjoy it, seeing as you're more the JRPG.
Yeah, I like the RTS kind of genre.
But it was an enjoyable game.
I liked Lego Lord of the Rings,
That was a good one. That was a fun one.
as well as Battle for Middle Earth 2.
Yes! Yes, I played that on the 360.
I played that on the PC.
That's the only RTS I've played.
Really?
Yeah. I thought about trying Halo Wars, but I just... I don't know.
Did you play the first Battle for Middle Earth?
No.
It was okay, but...
Because it was... The only reason I played, too, is because it came out on the 360,
okay.
and they're making such a big deal about how they're mapping everything to the controller buttons and how they're making it intuitive. And yeah, I played the heck out of that game, too. That was a good Lord of the Rings game.
I think you should play, and it is a pretty underrated game, I would say, Star Wars Galactic Battlegrounds. It's an RTS. I think it's only on the PC, though. And they did release an expansion for it about the time the Clone Wars came out. I think it was the Clone Wars campaign. But it was a really fun game. I've talked about it on this podcast before, so I won't
I have
waste
nothing
any more
against
time on it.
RTSs. There's not many on consoles, so...
Yeah,
And
they're really
even
few and
less
far
that
between.
would appeal to me. So, I mean, that was Lord of the Rings. That was back in my heyday with, hoo-ah, with the movies and books and
Yeah.
everything. So, I was way into that. But
It's unfortunate because I used to love RTS as a kid. I loved StarCraft. I loved Command and Conquer. And, man, I would just kick myself in the ass.
Square
Seeing...
the boat.
You know, I would try so hard to play these games as a kid on PC because it was so difficult to play on a PC back then. For a kid, anyway. Because you had either have to use your parents or your older siblings, in my case, their computer.
Oh.
So it was really hard to...
I grew up spoiled with my own computer.
I didn't get my own till I was like 18, and I would have to share it with my older brother, who was really into PC gaming during that golden age, where all these RTSs were like huge franchises. And I don't know why, but I just can't get into them anymore. Like, seeing all these franchises get bastard versions, like...
Bastardized? Was that what you were trying to say?
Well, I mean, I was thinking of that Command & Conquer mobile game from E3, and I'm like, God, why does this keep happening? They just keep ruining these franchises I loved as a kid. It makes me sad.
Yeah.
Quick aside, the only PC game I have played was the first Sims on my aunt and uncle's PC
Really?
when I was like, I don't know, probably like 10 or 11. And it was when they lived here and I lived far away, so we would come to visit them. And
Gotcha.
yeah, I would play that every time I visited.
I know most kids that were our age when that game came out, so we were like pretty little. They would be like the kind of people that would build a swimming pool, get all the people inside of it, and then take out the ladder. I see you as the people that as the kind of person that actually tries to get them to have a good life and get a good job and try to prosper.
How do you
as
know?
A kid.
Of course, I was all about the cheat codes too. So I was like, $1 million here, $1 million here. Just let me build whatever I
Give me
want.
them
I don't want
simoleons.
to. Yeah, simoleons.
Did you play any like the roller coaster tycoon games?
No.
Oh, okay.
The closest thing I played to like a park management type game or simulator was I did play SimCity. I have vague memories of that. Probably on the same aunt and uncle's PC. But Jurassic Park, that's another. That's
Topic
my next
for another
underrated
time?
game.
Oh.
It's Jurassic Park Operation Genesis.
Oh, okay.
That was on the original Xbox.
Oh,
And it was basically, Zoo Tycoon or whatever, but with dinosaurs.
that sounds fun.
And it seems like the Jurassic World game that just came out, it seems like they
Evolution.
borrowed a lot from it.
Yeah.
I do want to pick that up and play it still, because I love Genesis.
I love the
But-
Sega Genesis.
I know
That
you
wasn't
do.
underrated, though.
But yeah, that's the closest I've come to playing like a simulator like that.
Hmm.
But yeah, that was a fun game. In that game, I would build carnivore pens and all that, and then destroy the fences and let them run around and eat people. So yes,
So
I
what,
did do that.
you would get that out in Jurassic Park, so you wouldn't have to do that in The Sims.
Exactly. The Sims haven't done anything bad. They're good people. They're just trying to live their life.
What about the people going to see these dinosaurs? Okay, well, they're kind of asking for it.
Yeah,
I get
if they got that much money to go, you should see
Pet
what
the
I was charging for
velociraptor.
tickets to get into that park. If they had that kind of money to buy a ticket, they deserve to be eaten. These are
Robert
probably
the
a-holes.
Monopoly Man.
Those are good times.
Yikes.
You were the person to get like all the hotels on Monopoly spaces, weren't you?
I can't remember the last time I played Monopoly.
Monopoly's a terrible board game.
I love Monopoly,
I
though.
hate that game. It never flipping ends. Goes on for days.
It takes forever, yeah.
That's what I love about
If everyone's good at the game, then it will never end.
You know what was a fun game? A lot of people didn't think so until the second one came out, was Just Cause.
The first one?
The first one. That was a
Wow.
really fun game. That was a very underrated game. I know Robert played that.
Yeah.
It was a GameFly game that...
I guess I didn't think about it being underrated till now, but I did get that. I know for a fact I got that through GameFly, too.
Yeah.
And then I bought it once
I think we
my
talked
thing
about
was
this
up.
on the Guilty Pleasures episode or and other episode, but that was a really underrated game because I only heard about it from one other guy that I worked with at the time, and he was like, "No, dude, you should play this game. It's really cool." And then the second one came out, and they just like took it to not even 11; it was like 17 with it, and just went way off the rails.
Yeah.
But the first Just Cause was a little bit more grounded, and it didn't feel like it was trying to be GTA. It was its own separate thing.
Yeah. And at the time, it was a gorgeous game,
it
too.
It really was. That was one of the earlier 360 games. Wasn't super early, but it was early enough to... It was really good. And it was the first open world game since San Andreas that I'd gotten into. It was really good.
Little Rico Rodriguez.
Oh, yeah.
Look at him now. Fourth game coming.
Yeah.
Flying at tornadoes.
And I have nothing against those games now, but they kind of went the way of Saints Row, went super ridiculous over the top.
Yeah.
Trying to do bigger every game.
The first one was over the top too, but it wasn't as much.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's following your action movie critique. Like, just get right to the gameplay. Don't care about the story.
yeah, and those are fun. And I didn't care about the story in the first Just Cause, but it felt like it was more centralized on how you were supposed to play it rather than just hey, grapple this, blow this up.
I see.
It was fun.
Was there a grapple in the first game? I really don't remember.
I don't think there was.
I think you just had your parachute.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I don't know for sure, but yeah.
It's been a long time.
Yeah. Moving on, I got quite a few more to talk about if there's time for it.
Sure.
I know this game had a lot of controversy when it first came out,
Oh, boy.
but I really enjoyed it because I played it after it was current.
Viva Pinata.
No, I'm actually going to bring up Fable 3.
Oh.
Fable 3 is not a good game. It's not. It's really not. But I actually enjoyed it for what it was. I enjoyed the aspect of having like a character you're playing as that has influence over the entire realm, as opposed to just over like a city. I mean, this was like way after it came out. Like I think I played it in like 2012. But you know, I played Fable 2 and I played that release and I liked it a lot. And I mean, there's not like good and bad about it without taking in the whole picture of it, essentially.
So that was one franchise that I never got into. Like I tried playing the first one when it came out with the Lost Chapters or whatever.
Yeah.
It was like that bundle. And I never got into it.
It was one of those games that first came out on Xbox. And at the time, this was being hyped up so much by Peter Molyneux and Lionhead Studios. Like, he would say...
I remember.
No, like, this is bad. Like, he would say, yeah, everything in the game world happens for a reason. Like, the trees, they grow, and they actually shed their leaves. And this is all happening in real time because we developed it that way.
Yeah.
Like, every little ass pull that he could get... he didn't take, like, nobody for granted. Like, he would just get in there and hype this game up like crazy.
Yeah.
And this is why I did not buy into the hype of No Man's Sky. Particularly because of Peter Molyneux and the Fable series.
But he wasn't involved.
No, he wasn't. That's the thing.
He
was
ruined it for...
He was a marketing person.
Yeah.
Like,
I remember...
I don't think he sat in front of the game and played it.
What was the game that they did recently? It was like the box or the cube or something, and everyone was chipping away at this cube or whatever, and then it's like the middle of it is this amazing prize that one person's going to get. I don't even remember what it was.
It was like God something.
That sounds about right. But yeah, he's definitely a hype man.
Like Godus.
Yeah.
Yeah, Godus.
Yeah, Goddess. Yeah.
And there's like an article from the perspective of the person that won. Like he won the game basically.
He got to the Tootsie Roll center of the Tootsie Pop.
Yeah, and he got screwed over basically.
Didn't like what he found, huh?
It was Peter Molyneux. That's who it found.
Congrats, man.
Here's nothing.
Is that your French accent?
I don't know why I gave him a New Zealand.
Man.
I don't know why. The only accent I can seem to do lately is Korg from Thor Ragnarok, so that's automatically what I went with. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
sorry, Peter. I know you're not New Zealand-ish.
I mean, there's other games from that era that I played that were, at the time, like controversial. and one of them is Asura's Wrath. Basically, that got a lot of flack for being like a cutscene based game where you just do quick time events. But I don't know why I enjoyed it so much. Maybe it's because I played it several years after it came out. Because I think it came out in 2009.
If you're playing it and know what you're expecting, it seems like a game that you might end up enjoying.
Yeah.
But not a whole lot of people would.
But there was a lot of flack that it got for having DLC to finish the story.
Okay, yeah, I have heard of this game.
Yeah, but
That
you know,
sucks.
I bought the game. I bought all the DLC for really cheap when it was on sale, and I just played the hell out of it, and I had a good time. Like, it was really fun, and the story was good. Like, the final boss fight is like way up there for me, like in final boss fights list.
But if you played that when it first came out and you had to wait for the DLC,
Oh, yeah,
and then you had to buy the DLC
I would be
separately.
disappointed, yeah.
Okay.
But I kind of feel like it's an underrated game as a whole.
Okay.
Because it did something that no other game has really done, where it's basically like a anime series, but you have interaction while watching it. But that's what kind of makes it cool, because you're going through all these action scenes, just mashing buttons. But it was fun for what it was. I really enjoyed it based off of that.
Cool.
Nice.
Because I didn't take it like a gameplay game. I just took it as like an anime I'm watching. But I'm kind of in there too, which made it kind of like a level over watching, like visually.
Gotcha.
It was interactive.
Yeah, like a video game.
Exactly. The circle's complete. And then this is another one I wanted to mention as well.
Your segues are just killing it today.
Yeah. You can tell I was really prepared. Have you guys heard of Binary Domain?
Yes, I've played it.
You played it? Like
Sounds
all the way?
Vaguely
No,
familiar.
I hadn't
Oh.
beat it. No, but it's fun.
I know.
It's
That's why I'm bringing it up.
I don't think it was an underrated. It might have been underrated at release, but since
was.
then, I don't think it's been. It's been on several Steam sales to the point where every outlet, when it was on sale for the first few Steam sales, said, "Hey, you got to play this game. You got to try this game. You got to play this game." I think it's out there. I don't think it's underrated anymore.
Yeah, basically, they're the developers behind the Yakuza series, which I really enjoy. And this was like a whole new IP for them that Sega was like, just do whatever the hell you want. And it was really promising from the get-go. Like, the trailers for it, like, it made it seem like Westworld-y, you know, for something to visualize for you, Robert.
I'm picturing Westworld, yeah.
Yeah, like, basically, humans find out they're robots and all hell breaks loose.
Okay.
It's really cool. And the combat in the game is so visceral because the sound design along with the enemy design makes for a really fun shooter. Because you have to kind of approach it similar to, for example, Dead Space, where you have to shoot off limbs or certain parts of the robot to defeat it.
Mhm.
And it made combat really engaging. And not only that, but you also had this squad system that, depending on who you have in your squad, they would have more dialogue and cutscenes, and it would change the outcome of the story too. It was really awesome at the time. Like, I felt like it was years beyond anything we're getting today.
Streets ahead.
Yeah,
Streets ahead.
Yeah.
God, it was a really great romp. The boss design too.
That is a great word.
I don't hear people use that very often, so thank you.
Well, I mean, what do you think of when you hear romp?
No, exactly how
A
you
good old
said
romp in the hay.
it. I wasn't thinking sexually about it, but
Really? I think you were.
I think you're wrong.
I'll say.
Highly underrated game. I highly recommend a romp in those woods.
Okay, now I'm thinking sexually.
Beautiful.
You guys got any more you want to
I've
share?
got like 17 more. I have a lot.
Lightning round, go.
I mean, it's not really 17, it's like 4. But still. So back in the heyday of the early first-person shooter on the PC, Doom, Quake were the big ones.
Yeah.
I wasn't even going to bring up Hexen or Heretic. I guess Heretic or Hexen, because Hexen was the sequel to Heretic. Those were really good games. Rise of the Triad's the one that I'm bringing up, and it's not even the original 1996 or whatever year they came out. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about the remaster, the reboot in 2012, 2013, 2014. It was within the last 5 years or so. They did a reboot of that, and it was I think it was $20 on release, so it was a budget game, and it was so fun. It just brought me back to that arcade style of first-person shooter, and it had a lot of the same tropes as Rise of the Triad, the original one did, but it was very modernized. It was super smooth, super fun. One of the best first-person shooters of the time, because that was before Doom was being remade. It was before any of the other fast-paced first-person shooters were coming out, and they were all COD. And it's the first time I've said COD without referring to fish.
Another one from the 360 days was Gun.
Oh man, I totally forgot about that.
I forgot about that one.
That was a launch title.
It was a launch 360 title. I remember I bought it, I think like 2 weeks before the 360 came out, because back then it was EB Games where I lived. They had a couple 360 games for sale already. And so I bought it before the console even came out, and I was like, I'm so excited to play it.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a really good Western game. It was before Red Dead Redemption. Says all I had to compare it to, but it had actually a really good story. And you had Thomas Jane voicing the main character, and then you had like Chris Christopherson.
Whoa, they had like a whole all-star cast for voice acting?
Mm-hmm. I forget who voiced the main bad guy, but they had some, really recognizable people in it, and it was a really fun game. And they had kind of like a bullet time type thing, quick draw. Is that Red Dead or was that Gun? Can't remember what Red Dead calls it. It's Deadshot, right? Or Deadeye. Deadeye. All right, so quick draw I think was Gun. And so it had similarities, and the world wasn't quite as open as like Red Dead. It was more segmented, but yeah.
You just made me think of Call of Juarez. There was one specific Call of Juarez game.
I remember I tried really one fun. That I didn't care for.
It was really fun because it was a first-person shooter. It was a stupid first-person shooter. It wasn't Cartel.
Wasn't there like 3 or 4 of those games?
A lot of them were different like genres.
Yeah. Remember
Gunslinger. Call of Juarez Gunslinger. That was I typed Call of in Google and came up with Call of Duty.
Of course.
COD. Call of Juarez Gunslinger. That was a very underrated game. It was super fun. It was silly. It was stupid. It was action. It was great.
Sometimes that's all you need.
That's all I need, apparently.
I think that makes up a majority of like underrated games. Like, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's nothing like poignant or like revolutionary in terms of game design.
Yeah, they just do.
It's just a fun game.
Yeah, they just do one thing and they do it well.
Yeah.
Warframe was one of the last ones that I had thought of, and I just thought of this while we were talking. I don't think it's gotten quite the press that it should have. There are some people that are just adamant about how great that game is.
That's a free-to-play game, right?
Yeah, but that free-to-play moniker gives it a bad rap to begin with, and
most free-to-play games do.
Exactly. Yeah, most free-to-play games suck, and this one does not. Like, honestly, it does speed things up if you pay money, but there's absolutely no reason that you have to pay money. Everything is accessible, for the most part, via just gameplay. And you can play solo, you can play with other people. It's all cooperative, and there's just missions that you do, and the action is fast and it's fun, just like everything else I've been talking about.
I might have to check that out, because it's one of those games when I check out the marketplace on Xbox every once in a while, just like look at the free games or whatever, and that's always towards the top. But whenever I think of free to play, I'm like, oh,
you think of like Fortnite, and you think of the other.
Yeah.
There's a crap ton of free to play games.
I might have to check that out.
The last one that I had thought of, it's 2 games, but they both came out pretty recently: Evoland and Evoland 2.
Oh, I heard you mentioning this before.
The original Evoland game, they're completely different games. But the first one was more of a concept of a game. It was you can only move right when you start until you pick up the pickup. Then you can move left, and then you can move right, left, up, and down, and then your screen gets bigger. Then you get sound effects, and it walks you through the evolution of game development. Is what that game is. It's a love letter to the making and the progression of video games.
Sounds interesting.
It's really fun. It's a cheap game. It's a short game, and if you get past the beginning few minutes, I think if you're a video game enthusiast, you can really appreciate what there is there. It's a great game just to sit down, play, and appreciate. Evoland 2, on the other hand, is more like a Final Fantasy, I want to say. It doesn't start off that way. It kind of starts off as a 2D game, and then as you go... It's got a mechanic where you go forward and backward through time, and it's got 3 different time frames by the end of it, I think. You have a 2D world, like an 8-bit 2D, a 16-bit 2D, and then a PS1 style 3D world that you go to. And you have to go back and forth through time and figure out the puzzles and everything. It's a fully fleshed out game, unlike the first Evoland. They are completely different games. I recommend both of them. They are highly entertaining, especially the second one. It's got a lot of other bonuses like secrets and Easter eggs in it. So many references. I think you both would get a lot of enjoyment out of both of them. I honestly do.
Sounds interesting already.
Yeah, they're both great games. Highly underrated, especially the first one.
We'll do a quick one. Pretty sure I've talked about this before, but Oddworld Stranger's Wrath.
You have talked about that because it was when we talked about what game I was gonna win with the trivia.
Right. I remember that trivia game.
Yeah,
I missed that.
Something came out of that.
I'd never played any of the previous Oddworlds, so I can't say how it compares to those ones, but it was really fun in that you were this weird creature guy that's like a bounty hunter, so you were already cool, but you had like a crossbow. Bounty hunters are cool, Kevin. He's laughing at me. So you had like this crossbow, but all the ammo you had in the game was live creatures that you had to catch. Or, I guess instead of, picking up a crate of ammo off the floor, you would just be picking up creatures. And each creature had a different, power or whatever. So, some creatures would blow up when you shot them out. Some would be like a swarm of bees and stuff. And it was a really fun, unique way to have basically an action-adventure game. And, yeah, it's been a long time since I played it.
It sounds a lot different than the other Oddworld games, too.
Yeah, because those are more like platformer, right? It was definitely an action-adventure, third-person, shooting guns and shoot traps and stuff like that. And like with the bounty hunter, and it's almost like a Western type of setting. And it was really unique. And it was really fun to play, but it never got as big as it should have, I felt. Definitely check it out.
Nice. Well, just to kind of do a lightning round, I think it'd be kind of fun to kind of list some random ones off and just briefly summarize them.
Give us your randos.
So starting with the N64 area, there's a couple games that I think is worth taking a look at just because of how unique they are.
It's been very lightning-like so far.
Bumblebee 64. That was a fun shooter.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, look it up.
It sounds like a game you're making up right now.
It sounds like that new Transformers movie.
So that's all you get.
Go on.
Fair enough.
Other games.
The James Bond series on the PS2, GameCube, Xbox era.
I played a couple of them, didn't like them.
They
didn't live up to GoldenEye.
No, they didn't, but they're fun with the multiplayer because they have grappling hooks. You can be like Spider-Man and kind of go around the map like Spider-Man.
Gotcha.
So that was fun. The Spy Hunter series, I always found that to be kind of an underwhelming.
The what?
Spy Hunter.
Okay.
Like the car game where you got like a spy car
Yeah.
and you just do missions with it.
Wasn't Vin Diesel in the promotion for one of those games?
I think so.
Drop something.
Moving on, Alice Madness Returns was a really cool game.
Okay, yeah.
Not really memorable gameplay-wise, but just for the aesthetic and graphical design of it. It was really trippy,
That was like the twisted version of it, right?
Yeah, it was freaking cool to
Is
experience.
that American McGee or something?
Yeah.
That sounds right.
American
Yeah.
McGee's Alice. This
Yeah.
is like his like fully budgeted version.
Yeah.
Back when
I have
EA
that on Steam.
Yeah, back when EA was still doing cool before they decided to stop doing cool.
Gotcha.
And that brings me to the next one, Dante's Inferno, Visceral's God of War like.
I played that for a little bit.
God, that was a great
I played
game.
the demo.
So fun. Next up would be Ghost Trick for the Nintendo DS. I could pretty much talk about this in another episode, but basically it's a text-based game where you have to figure out who murdered your character. But the interesting gameplay mechanic is that you're a ghost, and
You're tricking people.
basically you have like a bunch of rooms that you have to solve by possessing objects, and you have to, line them up like what's it called, Rube Goldberg devices,
Yeah.
and you have to like use those objects in the room to get something to happen in the story.
Interesting.
And it's a really good story. Like there's a lot of awesome twists in it, and you find out like all these crazy motivations for why your character died. Oh, it's an awesome game. I can't talk about it enough. I really want to go in more depth with it, but it'd be spoiler territory.
Yeah, don't.
And I think I'll end it with that. That's pretty much it.
Star Wars Bounty Hunter.
Oh my God! How have I not talked about that? That's a great one.
I like how you were about to slap the table and then you just kind of tapped it.
Here.
That game was awesome, dude.
Destroy All Humans.
That's a good one.
Yeah. That's
See,
all.
that would have been mine, but I didn't know if it was underrated
Oh my
enough.
God! This makes me so pissed off about Star Wars 1313.
I know, right?
Ah,
Yeah.
that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Pain is real.
Yeah. 13,
LucasArts,
13,
man.
And then even the other one after that, the Visceral one,
Yeah.
that got shut down.
God,
What can you
Star
do?
Wars Bounty Hunter was such a great game.
I'll tell you what you can do. You can follow us on Twitter at PushingButtonsP. Subscribe. However you're listening to this podcast, thank you for listening to this podcast. We're on
Yes,
CastBox,
thank
we're on
you.
iTunes, we're on TuneIn, Google Play, YouTube. We exist on Twitch. We haven't done anything yet. You can follow us there just in case we do something. I said do. Show us some love. Show us some support. Pass the message along of pushing buttons.
Spread the good word.
Star Wars Republic Commando for the last one.
Oh, dang, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That was a great game.
This might have to be
Damn
a
it.
2-part episode.
We'll save that for another time.
Do you guys have any more entries on this list? Let us know. Pushing Buttons P on Twitter. You can comment on this video or on this podcast, however you're listening to it. Thank you very much, and we will catch you next week.
Later.
Goodbye.
Love you.